the Jake Giffin Podcast.
I've been part of more, if you count funding rounds, more than 80 at this point, but pure
more than
exit,
80 companies.
where companies, well, those aren't all exits. That's where
Yeah.
you help a company raise a B round of funding and then a C round and a D round.
Yeah.
Usually there's a change of ownership at those points, but pure exits, probably 12 that I've been part of the companies themselves, either on the board, advisory board, or full-time.
Dude, how do you do all that I mean, you're only 49. I mean, you're doing.
It helps. I don't sleep a lot, so I do have some good genes in there. My dad always.
What I'm getting from you is that I should have been involved in that part of the business, because it doesn't seem to take long to raise money and sell it. But I know that's not the case.
No, except for learning to raise money or sell a company, because sometimes you're raising money and it ends up being a sale. It's a skill. And it's basically like large outbound sales. I mean, anybody who's done a $10 million sale, I could teach them to go raise venture capital and pitch. Part of it, though, comes down to, like, at every funding round, no matter the size of the money, like, they're going, the CEO and the team is going to have 200 to 300 conversations. And most people just won't put in the work. And so that's not like just a random cold call. But I mean, think about the work that you would have to do to have 200 conversations. And then I go, look, you will get a check for $10 million to invest in your company, but your choice is, do you do that over the next 60 days or the next 9 months? And most people don't think about it that way. So once you get the pitch down and you realize you just need to have this many conversations, well, maybe you will luck out and be on the low side of the bell curve, but you're going to build a system real quick that says, no, like, how do I have 300 conversations in the next 90 days?
Yeah. And from a prospecting standpoint, I mean, most sales guys don't do that math. You tell them they have to make 200 cold calls, and it usually takes them a year and a half to do it. Yeah. And the math is the same. Like, if you're going to close, if you're going to do 100 cold calls, you're going to close 10 deals or 20 deals or whatever industry you're in. In my case, it would be 40, because we have about an average of a 40% close rate for an average sales guy. Above average runs 50, 60%. So if you told them that, all right, you're going to have to go you're going to make 200 calls, you're going to get 10 leads from that, and then you're going to close four of those. They would drag that out as long as they possibly could, because they don't want to pick up the phone and talk to strangers.
I mean, different people will. Some people, though, that all they'll do is they'll sit up and they'll make every call. It is a personality perspective. And so, I think it is also the team that you have around you. It's like, I love people that that are now healthy addicts. They were addicted to something. You could be addicted to drugs in the past. You've come out of that. You were addicted to running. I was an athlete, a Division I athlete in 3 sports. Like, hey, you have to be fanatical to be that way. Well, those personalities, by all means, I love money, but you just put numbers up on the board that show that you've made more cold calls than me. And I'm going to be like, well, I'm not going to sleep. We had an inside sales guy who's now this incredible outside salesperson within the B2B SaaS industry. But like, he was an inside sales guy, and nobody ever wondered. They're like, why was he by far always the number one among this team that we ended up selling to the whole company to Oracle? Well, because we would work until 5 or 6 o'clock in Atlanta, and then he would go to the bar and drink for a little while. He was the manager of a taqueria beforehand. And so he was single, and he would come back to the office and be like, well, I've had a little bit too much to drive. Who is awake right now? Well, by that point, now people have gone home on the West Coast. And so he literally just went, well, we haven't gone in Europe yet. I wonder if I can find contacts. And then he's still awake. He's at the office. And so he starts calling the Middle East. And so people look at things and, like, he just wanted to win. Yeah. And we just trained that. Like, that's a little hidden thing. Like, I've now had 3 former managers of taquerias who've become incredible salespeople. Because I think if you have that operation and you can do that, like, we can teach you how to talk to people. You already know how to talk to people. I just need to show you, here's the CRM and here's how it works.
Dude, it should be like your next book, right? The hidden talents in the local taqueria.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true, though. If you give them, if you have a talented guy who is hungry. Yeah. And can figure things out. Like, that's not most people, or a lot of people, maybe not most, but a lot of people would look at that situation and they would go home after they drank, or they would go somewhere else and drink instead of figuring out. I mean, how many people have you met really that sit around going, "Oh, who is awake right now?"
Right.
Like,
Well, he had a personal mission already. And so that's one of the things that I do like about my approach to leadership, which is like, I find most people, whether they have a faith background or not, or regardless of what their faith is, they have no intentionality in their life. And so it's not my job as your boss at work to tell you like exactly what you have to believe, but I'm going to ask you questions. Like I had a COO at a company that we later sold to to a large public company in the real estate space. And I asked him, just like we're just going for lunch. Like, what's your mission in life? What do you care about? And he was like, I like my wife and I, we just want to be happy. And my follow-up question to him was, over what time frame? Like this week or this month or like this year or like 10 years? Or do you just want to, or do you want to be on the porch when you're 90 and be like, I had a great life. I'm really happy. And he just, he asked a couple questions to clarify. And I was like, well, no, I mean, like, I just mean like, if you just wanted to be happy, the decisions you would make right now, like you're not going to pay your mortgage. Like maybe you do things that your wife's not going to approve of. And this is somebody like with no faith background whatsoever. And he was like, well, yeah, like if I actually just want to do that. And so he was like, I don't have an answer to that. And so that just kind of came back up over the next like 6 months. And so, he calls me like every couple of years and he was like, I'm still trying to figure out what that means. But like, I just wanted to be happy. And now I know that's not the answer for me. And I'm like, I was so happy that he realized what he thought was his mission actually could be defeating for part of it, depending on that time frame. So it's like, I think for that, like you have to define the mission of the company, and then for each individual person, be like, hey, like, do you know what you want out of your life? The gentleman I mentioned that that was a great salesperson from a taqueria. Like he was single, he knew he wanted to be married and have a family at some point, and he knew like somebody took the chance on me coming into what could be life-changing money if I can do this. Well, when I have a wife, I'm not going to be able to work insane hours. And so how do I put money in the bank now? And so like that was kind of his drive. He didn't have the rest of his life figured out. He didn't have a lot of other things, but he knew that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and then is servant leadership then, when we talk about servant leadership, this is like, you have somebody, they want to be happy. And you got a guy who wants to be married and he needs money put in the bank. It helps to define what happy is. It's good to define how soon you want that happiness. It's good to you have to define all those things. So is this, when you talk about servant leadership, is this like, let me try to give a parallel. In the Christian world, there is discipleship. It is somebody comes to Christ for the first time. They're learning, they're reading the Bible, they're getting deep. And then you come alongside and kind of disciple them, show them the way, kind of show them the teachings of Christ, and kind of maybe emulate that in real life. Is servant leadership then that idea in a secular form? Like, oh my God, that's probably not a great thing, but you get what I'm saying with that?
I get what you're saying. And I'm a believer. So I've discipled people and been discipled. And so I follow the path. Yes and no. The main part that I get from discipling in a Christian perspective is coaching. Like you don't just tell somebody what to do. You get in the ring with them. They need to have shoulder to shoulder time with you, especially as a man. You need to show them what it actually looked like. You want to disciple somebody, like the company I mentioned we sold to Oracle, the CEO was a believer. But what I got to know actually about like becoming a CEO and a true leader of leaders was I worked most of my days in his office. I happened to, on the weekends, I was a Sunday school teacher for 2 of his sons at church. But I got to be in the office when he would call and make the difficult discussion with his wife saying, yeah, I'm going to work to 8 o'clock tonight. I know you're expecting me to come home. And so I got to see not the CEO polished side. He let me see all the inside that he didn't do well. And I sat in his office. We would be in cars where like it's on speakerphone and I'm quiet. She doesn't know I'm there, but they're having a fight. And I would be able to ask questions for that later as we're traveling. That's kind of discipleship. But if there's some part of leadership where you do have to let people in on that. And so for me, the term servant leadership, too many people, I think, just couch it towards the book from the 70s. But I mean, like Christian discipleship is servant leadership, but it's another face, and we've had it for thousands of years. That was just a marketing term that somebody put on a book. For me, leadership just comes down to there's only two ways to lead. Everything else is a flavor or a dialect in there. I can be the authoritative leader. So at work, I hire you to do a specific job, which usually comes down to do exactly what I say, the way I say it, in the time frame I say it. And if you deviate from that or don't hit the numbers, you're fired.
Yeah.
And there's that threat is always there. The servant leader, and the way I built the business case around it, and I didn't realize what I was doing at the time, was says, I'm not hiring you to do tasks at job. I've hired you in any position to help me reach a business outcome. And now from even a selfish perspective, if I'm not the CEO, I may have hired you to help the company reach a business outcome and to help me reach a personal outcome for my career. But I've hired you to reach an outcome, at which point, yes, and at the end of the day, I would fire you. But my job at that point is to serve you, to help you reach those business outcomes, which may mean coaching you. It may mean removing friction in your life. It may mean teaching you how to use a CRM. It may mean, hey, you're doing horrible on calls. I know I'm a great closer, so I'm going to take the next 12 calls and you're going to listen to it. And then I'm going to coach you for the next 6. Like, so that point will look very much like discipleship. But when you take it down like that, then it doesn't matter whether there's a faith or not. It's either I'm leading through the authority of you're fired at the end of the day, which can still happen. But at the end, but the servant leadership said, yeah, I hired you for this, but if you figure out a different way to close deals, I actually just want more revenue if you're a salesperson.
Yeah. You're to your point, you hired them for an outcome,
right,
or for a result. I mean, it's so, there was a meme going around for a long time of the difference between a boss and a leader.
Yeah.
And the boss is the guy who points and says, do this or else. And the leader is one who steps into your shoes with you and says, let me show you how to be successful, or let me show you how to close deals. Let me show you how to make cold calls. Let me show you how to, and kind of walks with them, meets them where they are, and then walks with them in the direction they need to go, in the hopes that they catch on for themselves. Is that basically the gist of it?
No, because for me, servant leadership has nothing to do with whether you're being soft or nice. Like, unfortunately, like especially in the Christian world, I know a lot of Christian bosses that are the nice boss, but they're authoritative. Like, they're not servant leaders. They're not coaching. They're not helping. If anything, they have a toxic empathy. Like, I hate if you go to most chat GTPs and you say, give me the 5 characteristics of servant leadership, and empathy is always by far number 1. And I'm like, no, empathy is like a hammer or a saw. Like, it's a tool. Like, I need to relate to you as somebody who's working with me because you're a whole person. But at the end of the day, empathy can be toxic. And so it's strategic empathy. It's connecting with you. It's it's discipline listening. It is coaching. It's being very clear and pointing out, here's the expectations. Here's the outcomes I want. I should be able to go to everybody in a 5,000 person company and say, how is what you were hired to do going? What are the outcomes they want from you? And how does that connect to the outcomes that the company wants this quarter? And if the person at the front desk can't say that about their job, then they're not a servant leadership organization. And so there's no way that things can be connected. And so, like, empathy has a place. And at the end of the day, I hope people think that I'm at least nice, but I'd much rather they think that I'm a good leader and that I care about them, that I realize, hey, at the end of the day, I will fire you if you don't hit the outcomes. But that will never be a shock. I won't hide from you in the grocery store. You know, if I fired you and you walk by, you will have known it happened. So that when something happens, like, one example is one of the best product managers I've ever had in any continent everywhere just went completely quiet at work. And it's like, it took a couple days to get in touch with him. And then like, what's going on? Like, we're going to have the discussion about performance at this point. And literally, he had been thrust a couple weeks beforehand into elder care. I had actually been there. And so, like, he literally just kind of points out, he's like, I've been trying to cover 2 or 3 days ago. The wheels came off. I lost everything. I just had to deal with fires. So we had the conversation. For the next 60 days, he was probably one of the least productive people I've had on a team. Over the course of the quarter, he was probably about average. The half year, he was still top 5%. The year, he was still top 1% people in that role that's ever worked for me or the company. The empathy is connecting to something's wrong, and I'm going to be transparent about what I expect from you. And then giving an environment where he opens up and says, this is what's actually going on. And I go, oh, you are a real person. I want money from you. I want outcome over the year. Now let's actually meet you where you're at.
Yeah, it's the sales guy who, falls into a slump.
Yeah.
And then, if you're the if you're the boss, or if you're the other guy, you're going, do this or else. In what you teach people, and I'm gonna use kind of a real world example, because I've done this myself with sales guys, and that is, what is going on with you, right? Like, you didn't forget how to sell. Like, you didn't just wake up one day and just be like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to ask questions and close deals. Like, that didn't happen. So what's going on? And then they tell you about their failing marriage, or their kids are on drugs, or something like that happens. And you go, oh, okay, come alongside, help them through it, or coach them through it. They turn out to, and they regain themselves on some level. Is that, that's what I've done. I don't know if that counts as servant leadership or not, but that's.
I think that counts. And it also is meeting them where they're at. Not everybody will expose that to you. Like, I had a marketing manager who was great. And, even to this day, like, I've connected with him on other things. I brought him into an executive organization to be mentored by someone else.
Mm-hmm.
I believe he let slip when he was interviewing originally that he was married. I know when he left the company, he was not. I have no idea what happened, but he just held things this close to his chest.
Yeah.
And so, okay, like, I'm going to meet you where you're at. And at work, I can't manage your personal life, but I'll be there if I can.
Mm-hmm.
I think about it, just where they want to bring that up is, like, to your point about, if they're not making calls, or if they're not hitting their numbers, traditional leadership gets compliance. You can get somebody to make calls,
Mm-hmm.
but servant leadership gets commitment. Like, I want to not have to show up to the office every day.
Yes.
And the team is still killing it. I
Right.
want, when I show up, for the room to feel different. I want there to be momentum when I step in, and be like, all right, and not like, hey, we have to now, like, all mind what we're doing. I want it to be like, no, coach is here. Let's see how it's done.
Yeah.
And that's how I want the feeling, versus just compliance. And it's like, at the end of the day, like, it's one thing if you're paying, somebody just by the hour, but even then, like, commission work, anybody that's on salary, I'm not paying you for 40 hours. I'm paying you for us to do something that, in my case, we're changing categories. We're defining new categories of industries. It's like going to war. And
Mm-hmm.
so I need you to be looking at what I'm not seeing. And so some of servant leadership is also saying, yeah, I have really strong opinions. I've been really successful, which also means I'm much more likely to have blind spots. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know that I'm completely wrong about 3 things in my business right now that I think I am right about, because historically there's always at least 3. Yeah, you've been there.
Yeah.
Something happens, and it's not just like data was a little bit different. Like, oh, we could have done it differently. It's like, no, looking back at all the data I had then, I made the wrong decision.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you expose that to people, and you say, hey, you close those one-on-ones and go, what could I be missing in the business? What could I be missing in how we could be closing more? What could I be missing in how we're talking to our customers? Well, then especially when you bring back to that team, the whole team, not the one-on-ones, but where you were wrong,
Mm-hmm.
then they come back to you more. And so
Yeah.
that's why, your point earlier, it is easier to raise money when you've done this a number of iterations, because people know what you're creating. But part of that servant leadership is like, no, I might be wrong, and you can bring up where I might be wrong, or the whole company might be wrong, or where somebody else is getting in your business and it's holding you up. And I'll protect you. My job is to protect that, what's wrong, and let us fix things. Like, I want to know. Like, so I'm historically, I'd say I find out about things 18 months earlier than I otherwise would in our business, from where before that time would happen. And think about going back, every business you've been in for the last 25 years, instead of waiting 24 months for those major shit, I was wrong, you found out in 6 months. So then
Yeah.
it's 6 months and a day, you start iterating off of what would have been 2 years from then.
Yeah. How far ahead of the curve are you if you find out that information in 6 months rather than 24 months?
Yeah.
It's life-changing. That could be a matter of your business succeeding or failing. And you talk a lot about transparency in leadership. Is that, and there's a value, there is absolute value in in owning your missteps or owning your wrongs. And then as a leader, it's all your fault. Right? I've come to accept that. That's fine with me. If if our sales are low because somebody's not performing and they haven't been performing for 6 months or a year or whatever, if something bad happens to the company, that's my fault. I let the guy underperform, or I let the lady underperform. So that you own all those results yourself as a leader. But how important is it that when you make a misstep, like it's actually a decision you made that leads the wrong direction? How important is it that you own it in front of it's in front of your colleagues or your employees?
In my experience, the bigger the mistake, not just doing this myself, but having often mentoring and coaching senior leaders in really high growth companies, the bigger the mistake, the more public you should make it within your company. Once you fully know what's gone on, even if it was other people, to your point, you allowed it to happen. So you should bring up and you should own every bit of that yourself.